going on YouTube? Joe G here, Touch of the Brush Model Weathering, and I am going to be visiting Andy Crawford in Kentucky. He has a beautiful layout, and he's also part of the YouTube Model Builders. He has his fine scale model show Tuesday nights. I think it's twice a month. And right now I just stopped in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and this is a nice museum here. And here we got the Louisville-Nashville train. And we're about to walk up to the, I believe it's an E8 or E9 locomotive. This is right next to the CSX mainline subdivision. Comes out of Nashville and comes up to Louisville, Kentucky. And yeah, here's the locomotive right here. The last time I've been here was when I first moved to Nashville, hang out with my buddy Abrar. He lives up this way. And I haven't been here in a long time. And it's a beautiful day. It's January. I got a short sleeve shirt on because it's 70 degrees. It's a little windy, so hopefully you guys can hear this video. But here's the nose of the sucker right here. And right over here is the main line. So I'm going to do my railroad photography. And then I am going to head over to Andy's house. And we're going to do the podcast tonight, and then we're also going to do a little video layout tour for you guys.
It is hard to explain. If I take the tape off, I won't be able to continue.
No, we'll talk about it later.
I don't know. It's there, you can see that picture. They all fit together side by side.
So I'm here in Andy Crawford's train room here, and this is his layout. It's based off the Norfolk and Western to Clinchfield, and I believe the interstate. The layout is around the wall, and it's made out of pure styrofoam and foam. There's no wood here. It's made by modules. He designed it to where he builds each module individually and then hooks up together. Give you an overall view, and we'll go in more detail later on. So here's a perfect example. Here's one module piece and another module piece right here. And he hand lays all this track, as you can see. So this layout's definitely a work in progress. But I really want to show at least a progress video on what he's been up to here. He makes all those trees out of sage plants here. He's a very prototypical guy as well, and the trees are absolutely to scale with the trains themselves. And you can see it by the progress here with the turnouts. He's still working on here in these scenes here. This is going to be double-decker layout. Right here in the center is going to be his helix, which he's in the process of building. And this module is going to go up and up there where that track ends. And there's also plans for 2 levels below the layout for a branch line. So here is the construction process that he uses for building the modules. As you can see here, it's all foam, and the track does come out, so as he could work on it, hand laying it instead of on the layout itself. And what's smart is underneath is where all the wires go. So if he needs to move, he can take out all the track, bubble wrap it, and put it in the truck, and he's good to go without anything being damaged or torn up. This is definitely a genius concept, and I really like it. This is beautiful. And these, what do you call these plants again?
They are okay. So it's super tree material, which is I'm trying to think of what the hell that actually comes from. Put on top of the root, or the core structure is on sagebrush.
Oh, sagebrush. Okay.
Yeah, sagebrush. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And right here is going to be the Norfolk and Western. Is that what's going to come through here? This is the clinch field?
That's the Norfolk and Western.
Okay.
The clinch field had trackage rights, though.
Okay.
So you'll see the clinch field come from the Y here, come down here, through here, comes across this track onto the second track from the back, and then makes its way down, and, you know.
Okay.
There.
Gotcha.
And then the clinch field will go down in, given the current two levels that I have, it'll just go down into the staging. However, because that staging goes to the same place, you can also make that a continuous run loop. So the clinch field can come through the Y, run around on the shared trackage, go all the way into staging, make a continuous loop, come back up, come back out. It can be run as a continuous loop.
Oh, that's cool.
Over the trackage rights. But it's designed so that the clinch field line that comes up and across the interlocking in the other direction is operatable as a continuous operation as a loop, but with staging through staging back there, even though there's a Y in the staging, so you can start turning trains around, which makes it much easier to automate the train movements using JMRI's warrant system. So when, you know, we have 3 or 4 guys running trains here, a guy running a pusher, whatever, you know, passenger, and then the passenger train will be automated on the NW, and you may see 4 or 5 clinchfield trains that operate in session that didn't require the space consumption in the room of an operator.
Oh wow, okay.
So you could have 4 guys running through here, but there could be 6 or 7 trains out, you know, 5 or 6 trains anyway out on the layout.
Oh wow, that'd be awesome, yeah. I was just showing everybody your concept on how you build a row bed and having the wires underneath. I think that's ingenious.
And yeah, it'll have and speakers underneath. Actually, I'm gonna get one to show you what speakers.
Oh, cool! You got speakers too. That's awesome.
Every 18 inches. So every rail, there's no rail joiners. I don't use rail joiners.
Right.
Every individual 36-inch rail is electrically isolated from the adjoining ground. It's insulated, and I use the fish plates to help alignment as well as spiking near that, even though I don't spike the rest of it. The rails are also offset by half the length. So as you come to the line, you have a 36-inch rail, and say you're at a coupling here, you have a 36-inch rail, and there's an 18-inch at the joint. On the neighboring joint, there'll be an 18 and a 36. Those two 18s work as one detection block even across the gap in the modules. This 36 is a block, this 36 is a block, this 36 is a block, which means using an Arduino, or in my case I'm using ESP32s, I do a comparator circuit so that if the train is on this block and on this block, we know it's within that 18-inch segment, and we light that speaker up for wheel clack and brake squeal.
Oh, nice.
If it is on this rail but not on this one, instead it's on this one and this rail, the comparison, it requires both of those circuits to be occupied to light that speaker, which means I can have 18-inch accuracy of block detection down to 18 inches, but only requiring isolation joints every 36 inches, which is coincidentally the length of a piece of rail.
Oh wow, that's gonna be cool.
Since I don't like rail joiners, you know.
Right.
You know, my problem with rail joiners, you look at some of the greatest layouts out there. You know, and I don't want to mention names, some of the most beautiful layouts ever constructed. And look at it for a few minutes, and you will see the 6 rail joiners around the turnout. Heck, in that case, if you look at that, and you've looked at train very much, I can tell you the manufacturer of the turnouts. I don't care how good they've weathered it, if they put all the microengineering or Central Valley extra detail parts on a turnout like there should be. Regardless, those rail joiners are there, and the ties are depressed slightly. I don't use rail joiners.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I do.
Your layout's gonna be better wired than the space shuttle. You know that, right?
Well, also, but there's only 4 wires actually run through underneath the layout.
Right.
All this, there's no signaling wiring. It's just power. All the rest of the signaling happens over Wi-Fi. The only signaling that happens over a wire is the DCC to the rail, that I hope to eliminate with dead rail in the future. But for the time being, there's DCC to the rail. But all the accessory controls, like turnout controls, the occupancy detection, the signal head illumination control, the semaphore controls, the lights and structures, etc., are all controlled with ESP32s over Wi-Fi. So
okay, cool.
And they're $3 apiece, and you can control 16 outputs for $3.
Right. So you're able to animate this outhouse?
I could animate the door. Actually, well,
make the toilet bowl work?
Well, and I built hinges, so it is a hinged door. And there is a 1 hole in there with a seat and a seat cover lifted up. They've got
that's great.
Actual holes in them. You know, I haven't put a Sears and Roebuck catalog in there or a Courthouse, but you know, eventually I'll get there.
Yes, Andy's a great structure builder.
You know, the funny thing is that I don't have that much terrible experience. The funny thing is, as an engineer, you know, in personality, in profession, in education,
Right.
I've always been up that way. So even as a young fella, I learned how to headlight track, cut my teeth headlight track at 15 with the club, and fell in love with it. I couldn't imagine not headlight track. I become one of the guys to headlight track, and I've been running wires since I was quite young, and as an electrical engineer, those are right up my alley.
Right.
The reason I did this layout the way I did, and don't have a lot of the track completed, is because that's fairly easy. I enjoy it. It's time consuming, but it's fairly easy. The electronics are fun, enjoyable, and I am working on them, but I focused on getting, and I especially jumped into the scenery right away, you know, trees and structures and stuff, was because I had no experience. I didn't know if I could bring them to a level I would be satisfied with at all, so I did that first.
Right.
If I couldn't have got them to that level, it didn't matter if I could lay track great or if I could do all kinds of complex electronics. I was not going to want to persist building a layout if I could not get the quality of construction to some level. I mean, I've still got a ways to go. And,
Right. And it gave you that self-esteem, that confidence that say, okay, I can do this. I already know the other skills. I already got those skills under my belt. Now it's just this stuff.
That's right. Well, this is my 13th layout, of course. It's the first layout that I've built in 12, 13, 14-year break. You know, I mean, I quit building layouts when I found out about girls, and then I started again, you know, now that I've had a girl for a lot of years. So, but I've had all plywood Pacifics, you know, occasionally a few of them being white plaster. One of the things I like about this technique of building as well is I cut up some foam over a half hour, get it glued together, pin it with skewers, leave the skewers in, so I could go ahead and put ground goop right over top of that, cut it with a knife. So maybe I build the foam one night, slap ground goop on the next night, dust it with dirt. I'm all the way to dirt in a couple hours or a couple hours over 2 nights, and I could build an 8-foot module all the way to dirt cover.
Right. And show me these rocks again. You were showing me, what was the product you used?
You know, these were done with real rock.
That's real rock?
Yeah, that's real rock because I had done it fairly early in my process. In that creek bed over there, river bed.
I'm going to come over here and show the module.
Well, and it's probably better to look at it from the other side because this is against the backdrop eventually, so I haven't focused as much on this because it's 4 feet away from a viewer could be. It's perlite. It takes stain like a champ, which you probably use dilute paint. As well, but I use shoe dice. Actually, I use the stains from Hunterline, and I take perlite, which a whole bag full of the stuff, and I've used a couple handfuls out of a bag on the whole layout, and I've used a lot of it actually, and break it up with a coffee grinder and sieve it into a few different sizes and glue it down and stain it. I use the larger stuff around the outsides, again stain it, then airbrush it, and like I said, all the rock that's on the layout that's the perlite could not weigh as much as a single frame.
Right. And it's very light. I felt that bag. It was a pound?
Oh,
not even.
The whole bag of it.
The whole bag.
Yeah. Well, and the ground goop is I mean, the heaviest part of it's paint. So, you know, it's not heavy. Of course, the styrofoam's not heavy. The homosote's the heaviest, probably, individual component on the thing. And I thought about that a lot. Especially in the early days of that. That was a confidence thing for me. I knew that I could get the sound deadening properties I wanted with Homosote, and I was not sure I could get them with anything else.
I used to use Homosote too. It always worked for me.
Oh, it just works. It's hard to argue with. And I don't like cork. I'm not a fan of cork. It dries out, and it deteriorates. And the biggest problem that I find is, as soon as you put track on it, and ballast it, and pour glue over the ballast, you've destroyed the cork's ability to deaden sound because it becomes hard as becomes hard as a board when you put glue in it. So,
right, exactly. It becomes almost like plywood by that point.
This is pretty far back from the viewer, so this is just a piece of bridge track actually, and I built it somewhat, but it's using the microengineering bridge track tie sections, but I ripped the ties out of it, ripped the rails out of it, slid my own rails in, cut all the little nubs off for the guardrails because the guardrails on the prototype were much closer than what they allow for. And this is a Proto 87 layout too, by the way. It's not RP25 or NMRA spec. I use scale wheel sets, sergeant couplers, all that stuff. So I put those close together. But the fish plates are even on the guardrails. And even though this is on plastic ties, like all the rest of the layouts wood ties,
You got some plates over down here. You can tell.
Yeah, that's
beginning process of the building.
Yeah, because that'll be tied into tied in here.
And how many pieces of how many ties? 200 something you said, right?
Well, in a 3-foot piece of track, because I did a 3-foot piece when I first experimented with it, counting individual wood ties, 2 metal tie plates per 6 on either side, on each side of a rail, so 12 per rail in 3 feet. So what's that? 24, just fish plates. In total, in 3-foot section of track, there's 502 individual components, counting the 2 rails, all the tie plates, and the fish plates. And that's not counting things like turnouts, where you have, where you have braces and, 2 or 3, 3 throw bars probably on a large turnout like an 8 or a 10.
Yeah.
Most of the layout is 8s and 10s. That's a fairly small turnout, but it's not operational. That turnout doesn't actually get used.
And what I like about is he actually makes basements for his buildings, and very smart because you put the wires in here, and that's how you light up your buildings right underneath, and it holds the structure in place too, a support.
Yeah, so there was a basement like the guys who pick on me on our YouTube channel. I said there was a basement under this house. It was there in prototype. He said, "Well, will you be able to see it?" I said, "No, but it was there on the prototype." So I put it there, which is not true. I was just picking on it, but it's there's cable chaseways from the electrical channel under here that go over into here, a hole fitting there. This gives me a spot to put an ESP32 or an Arduino, but ESP32 is just a
right. You know why we pick on you? Because we love you.
No, listen, I open the opportunity to be picked on for this stuff.
It's fun.
Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. I do things I'm a little excessive about the way I do things. Or I just don't do it. I mean, there's things I just don't do. But if I'm going to do it, I want to do it as well as I can possibly.
Some malaise here. Eventually we're going to have a upper deck here, so next time I come, we might just see an upper deck, which would be cool. There's the Y coming out that way. Now, was this a kit, these pine trees, or you made them yourself?
Just
beautiful.
That wood pine tree is the wood commercial tree on the layout. That's purchased. That was something I bought at Scenic Express.
Scenic Express, they make good stuff.
Yeah, it's an okay kit. Not a kit. It's an okay tree. Conifers are really tough. I made one. Over here I made it with asparagus fern and such. It's just exhaustively time consuming. And not that my trees aren't time consuming anyway, but the conifer was really much more time consuming than even a deciduous tree. So I haven't decided what to do about conifers yet.
You definitely have a great eye when it comes to the contours. And yeah, you're going based off the prototype. And this layout is a great example of a prototype modeling.
See, I think prototype is easier, not always, it depends, but it's easier in a lot of respects because you don't have to invent something that is realistic, practical, or railroad appropriate, or region appropriate, or industry appropriate or specific. You just do what the prototype did.
Right.
You don't have to determine a track plan, figure out whether, do the old trick of drawing it out on paper and putting coins on the paper. Of course, we do it with computers these days, but used to throw out paper, draw it out roughly to scale, put pennies or dimes on there and shift them around to see if there was enough track work to actually move the cars to complete the operation. However, if you just match the prototype's track work, the prototype figured out how to do it with whatever tracks were there.
Right.
So you should be able to.
Well, it's definitely great progress that you have, for sure. And it'd be nice, eventually you get the helix up, we'll get the second level up, and then we could run some choo-choos.
But even if I just get the helix in, I can connect to staging near immediately from the top of the helix. So as soon as I get the helix in, the Norfolk Western can be operated end to end, point to point, as it is a point to point.
Right.
Now the clinch field is, while it is somewhat operational, if I have enough staff here to do that, it's generally just considered moving scenery.
Mm-hmm. And we know this Y here is going to go out into that little, there's a little cutout, and it's going to go into staging into the other room. Am I correct?
Yep.
All
yep,
right.
Absolutely.
I'm understanding the layout more and more.
Yep. Every track is if it was there, if it was operated by the prototype, it's operational here.
Right.
Like in 1950, that track you were talking about over here that's all grassed up. In 1950, that industry, which was a tannery, prior to 1950, it was not in operation in 50. So the tracks doesn't need to go anywhere. So, and when that's up at eye level where it belongs, when I've got the water cast and I bring it back up here, you won't be able to see that track terminates. You can't see it, it disappears.
Right.
So, and the turnout will just be scenery. I'll build it, and if something ever changes, I'll make it operational.
Right. Well, Andy, I appreciate it a lot for you inviting me over here to Kentucky and being part of your show, which is it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and to see this layout's fantastic. Even the way it is, it's beautiful. And I just walked in and I was awestruck just looking at, what was it? The trees. The trees. The trees I loved.
It's got a long way to go. It's a significant work in progress. But if you could look at it as, as a big work in progress, as a very, very big project that is, and if you could get in your mind where it's going, where, what I'm thinking about it, where I'm going with it, then maybe you could buy into it and see what it will look like when it's...
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we can all tell what it's going to look like. And I was explaining that we could all do, that we're... in the process of where things are going to look and stuff, and we're gonna be, where's the located again? In Virginia?
Yeah, it's a model of roughly, eventually, if I do all 4 decks, it's about 24 scale miles, or about 24 miles in about 6 scale miles, 4-to-1 ratio, between Coburg, Virginia, through the town of St. Paul. This is St. Paul.
Right.
Eventually to Carbo, to the branch that branches off at Carbo that the Clinchfield owned, even though it was disconnected from their line, and the only way to reach it was track and tracks over the Norfolk and Western. So on this layout, I model a Clinchfield that's operational, even though it's largely moving scenery. Norfolk and Western Helper District, from the beginning of the Helper District all the way to the end of the Helper District, and I stretch it as far as I can to the point that 7/8 of your train will already be in staging when you stop and cut the helper off. So when you cut the helper off, Jam or I can just pull the train a few feet rest of the way to staging, and then you can drift the helper back down grade. So it's a helper grade. It also has Clinchfield trackage rights over it. It's a lot of trackage in a small area, a lot of movement. On the prototype, the yard at Booty held around 180 cars.
Wow.
On the prototype, yet the Clinchfield and Norfolk and Western exchanged upwards of 250 cars per day there. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of movement of both railroads to be able to get cars to and from this interchange yard. So in a typical operating session, there should be at least 4 movements to and from Booty. A couple of Clinchfield, a couple of AWs, if not more.
Wow. That's awesome. And definitely check out Andy's show. It's the Fine Scale Model show, right?
Fine Scale Live Build on the YouTube Model Builders.
On the Model Builders? Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you so much for inviting me here. This is Joe with you with TOTBModelWeathering. You guys have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.